Hey guys, and welcome to another video, and this one is about what I believe to be the most important component of any magical practice. Without it, you're basically walking into, as the Italians say, in bocca al lupo, which means into the wolf's mouth. So stick around to find out. First off, I'm going to explain to you why this component is so vital, what is its purpose, and when to actually implement it. Now let's get straight into it, but before I do that, make sure to tell me what you think is the most vital component of any magical practice. Let me know your answer in the comment section. I'm excited to hear it. For those of you who are more advanced practitioners, I'm sure have guessed the component I'm referring to, which is protection. As I like to tell all my students, 3 words matter most in magic: protection, protection, and protection. And you see, in the case of protection, it's better to be proactive than reactive, meaning it's not once you've had a problem that you seek protection, as most people do. You actually protect yourself to not run into any problems. And the reason I'm taking the time to touch on this so important subject, and I find it hard to believe that nowadays many occult practitioners, even authors, completely overlook it. You know, we get into this age where we think that the spirits are our friends, and I see many people who are not really well versed, or their practice is not really honed, that they think that it's actually something that is offensive to the spirits in some kind of way. Their logic is, if I'm calling on this spirit, well, why should I even bother protecting myself from it? Wouldn't they see it as offensive? Well, look, protection, and this brings me to my first point here, is not protection from the spirit you're calling. It's mainly from other spirits around, because you're protecting yourself from interference, from transgressions. When you start your ritual, right, you have to understand that there are millions, if not billions, of spirits around you passing by at any given time. And when you're performing a ritual, well, there might be some malevolent ones just happening to pass by. And most magic is done throughout the night, and we know that spirits are mostly active during the night. So you get your incense going, and then there's this malicious entity which, like, hey, this guy is doing some magic. I just love to prey on practitioners who don't protect themselves. Let me go mess his work up. And that's what actually ends up happening. So you're not protecting yourself necessarily from the spirits you're summoning. You're protecting yourself from other spirits who have no business in your work, in your area, or interfering with your ritual. So this is the first thing. Those people back in the day, fasting, isolating, there were all kinds of worshiping practices, purifying themselves, seeking forgiveness. They weren't crazy. Like, they weren't doing that just for the sake of it or to make their life more complicated. There was a reason for it. All the swords and the circle tracing, so on and so forth. Holy water, exorcising the incense, exorcising this, exorcising the charcoal, exorcising that. I mean, it just goes on and on and on and on. You think those people, it's because they were paranoid? No, those people knew what they were doing. So protection exists for a reason, guys. And of course, as in anything in life, there are different quality or different levels of protection depending on what you are doing. You know, if you're summoning an angel, you don't need as much protection as if you're summoning a satanic or infernal entity, right? This is just logical. What doesn't change, though, is you really need it. And I'm speaking not only from a place of personal experience, but from my own clients who have come to me seeking healing. See, there's a good portion of them who were practicing magic just following what the author said, or what the modern grimoire said, or what a person who had actually no business writing a book about magic in the first place just wrote because they wanted to sell some copies and make a quick buck. You see, protection is mandatory. It's non-negotiable. And those people who come to me seeking healing, and it's not just me, this represents a huge portion of individuals out there who are not using proper protection. They get possessed. Literally. There's no other word for it. They get hit. they get possessed, and they exhibit the same symptoms that other people who have had black magic done on them. So it is one thing to be targeted by black magic and people wish you ill and they messed up your life, but it's another thing to bring your own problems upon yourself. I've had a good amount of clients that I've had to deal with of my own self. Just to give you an example, one of them was performing a ritual out of these kind of like modern grimoires and used it to summon a jinn, and then he felt that something went wrong and they activated the fire alarm. Some stuff happened, some paranormal activity happened, and he felt that his life was never the same. And I could go on and on and on. I just gave one example. And in Arabic magic, there's always protection. It's like, do this ritual, recite this conjuration after tahsin. Tahsin is a word in Arabic which translates to fortification. You should fortify yourself. It's the tahsin, a hisn is a fortress. You should make your entire being a fortress, and not just your entire being, but your working area. So when you're protecting, you want to make sure that your whole area is protected. You have this safe space around you that can be penetrated. When do you use protection? The general rule in Arabic magic is to use it whenever you're reciting a conjuration. Whenever there is a recitation that involves summoning an external entity, that is a good time to perform protection. A protection ritual which is solid. As I've said, there are many rituals out there which are not effective. And in all honesty, protection should involve some kind of angelic presence. Angels are great protectors. And so in this case, as I've said before, proactive better than reactive. It's kind of like better safe than sorry. And it's not after you catch a virus that you actually get a vaccine for it. You get that before, right? So very important, guys, protect yourself. If you go somewhere on an adventure, you want to make sure to come back alive. Otherwise, it's just not worth it. Now, I'm going to tell you what is used for protection in the Arabic context. But before I do that, make sure to subscribe to this channel and hit that thumbs up button for more awesome content. So now I will tell you what is most widely used for protection in the Arabic and Islamic context among practitioners. I know many professional practitioners who actually use this very verse. The verse is the verse of the throne. I'm sure you've heard of it before. There's a very famous hadith, a speech or a saying by the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, where he asked one of his companions, which is the greatest verse of the Quran? He says the verse of the throne. He says, yes, this is the correct answer. So the verse of the throne is really the most powerful verse in all of the Quran. That's why it's used, has many uses, but one of them is protection, and that's why it's most widely used for. There are different ways to use it, and one of the safest ways is that you would recite it 7 times and repeating the last sentence 3 times. So 7 times when you're summoning an angel, 14 times when you're summoning a jinn which is not satanic, right, just a normal regular spirit, and then 21 times in the case of summoning a satanic or an infernal entity, just to have that extra layer of protection. So you see, angel, jinn, then Satan. Now, many people use only this, as I mentioned before. However, there are a few issues with using the Quran. First of which is that not everyone is comfortable with using the Quran, and the second of which is that many jinns, especially infernal entities, do not respect the Quran. That's, any Iraqi who has very much experience in this field will tell you that in some cases the Quran does very little, if not anything at all. So to mitigate that risk, many people actually use other forms of protection, which are conjurations, and this is why I have done the same thing for my students. So I have written this conjuration, this pre-ritual conjuration oath that people use in their practice, and we have moved away from the verse of the throne to this protection which uses divine names, angelic protection, so on and so forth, and people have reported great results with it. Many people have actually changed their lives just using the protection alone. And that goes to speak about just how much protection we really need in life. There are so many spirits around you at any given time that just protecting yourself effectively goes a long way to make your life better. Now, if you're interested in that conjuration, I'll leave the link in the description down below. You can go and check it out. But if you retain anything from this video, which is most important, is protect yourself. Protection is important, there are real risks, and if you choose to overlook it, you do so at your own peril. With that being said, stay safe and see you on the next one. Take care.